had no idea about that. So I'm a little more prepared. So just wanted to share with you. First, really appreciate the Coach Association letting us get up here and talk about this. They do a great job of supporting us and promoting the sport of wrestling. But just kind of wanted to talk about Danny and I's trip that I think many of you saw us sharing on Facebook as we went over to the Olympics this past summer. So we called it Climbing for Gold. What it is, who are the teachers in here? Any of you all written a Lilly grant before? Okay. The Eli Lilly is they have an endowment. They have a teacher creative fellowship. Every year, it's a branch of their fellowship. And I learned this as I started looking about it and talking about it. They actually have an endowment where they give scholarships to pastors as well and community leaders. But the one that we did was the Teacher Creativity Grant. When we did it, it was 100 teachers, and it's a $12,000 grant. It's for renewal. When we won, it was $12,000. Now they're giving out $125,000. This is annually. They give out $125,000, $15,000 grants. Okay, and you have to write it, and it's for renewal. And so that is for teachers, administrators, social workers, counselors. It's for anybody. If you're an educator, you can write one of these grants, and you have, and I'll talk about it a little bit more. But the purpose is for renewal, bringing energy back into the classroom. There's all kinds of different ones that I've seen people riding a bike across America, and it doesn't have to do really with anything about you becoming a teacher or a coach, or you can just connect it that way. But it's some people just want to pick up a new hobby, and they do those sort of things. So submission deadlines are typically, so this year is already passed, but you can check the website. I think this year was September 9th, but you kind of have to, it's kind of a long process because you have to go through and do it. So I had written a Lilly grant by myself a couple times, and it was, I got denied. And you should expect to, if you write one the first time, it's probably not going to get accepted. We've just sort of learned that. And you have to kind of update it. I'd done one before that was similar to what Danny and I did, and then we kind of combined the idea a little bit there, and ended up getting the Lilly grant. So the idea behind ours was I approached Danny back in 2019. 2019. I said, hey, at our conference meet, I was like, hey man, why don't we write a Lilly grant together? And we, and I had seen those before, where co-grants, where two people are doing it together. And I said, hey, why don't we write one as two coaches, want to go kind of do the Olympic experience and see some things and all that sort of stuff. And we ended up getting it. And you know, this was kind of our, you have to kind of have a tagline there. And so what we were trying to do, originally wrote it, and we won. And we won that in 2020. And obviously, the whole idea behind it really was two rival coaches. You know, Danny and I had I'd say a working relationship before. You know, Floyd Central, Jeffersonville, New Albany, rivals run strong down there. And those are old basketball rivals, if I'm being honest, even before Floyd Central was a thing. You know, and then my coach was a New Albany guy who came to Floyd Central. Floyd Central opened in '67. And so a lot of those things were very, very strong opinions. One time Danny said, hey man, why does everybody hate me? I was like, Danny, I really think if Jesus Christ was the head coach of Jeffersonville, my dad might not hate him, he's still not cheering for Jeffersonville, right? He's still not cheering for Jeffersonville. There's a story about one of my former coaches too, they had to lie to his mom about where her retirement home was, and had to tell her it was in Clarksville and not Jeffersonville, because she was not going to live in Jeffersonville, right? That's how strong some of those New Albany Jeff rivalries were. And so I approached him and, I said, I do think rivalries are good for the sport. That was mentioned yesterday, but I think rivalries are changing. It used to be out of this hatred and all these sort of things, and you can say, oh, that school sucks, yada, 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 and the kid's like, Coach, I follow that kid on Instagram. I've wrestled with him in a club. Like, that kid's nice, right? And so, I think it's now about trying to push each other, getting better, and all that sort of stuff. And so that was kind of the whole premise behind it. We had all kinds of plans. We were going to go to do some 14ers in Colorado, and we were going to end up climbing Mount Fuji and attend the Olympics. Was kind of the basic premise of it. Obviously, that didn't happen, but we changed it a little bit, and we started, planning. We tried to reschedule it for 2021, and Japan said no, nobody's still allowed to come in. Then we tried to go to Oslo to go to the Worlds, and still they were like, you all don't have the right vaccine. And then the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, and so we approached the Lilly Foundation. It was like, hey, can we just hold on to our money, and can we go in 2024? And they were very kind, and they said yes. And so we had four main goals of it: strengthen relationships as coaches and peers. And I do think that Danny and I did that. I was getting out of my comfort zone a little bit, approaching him. Like I said, there was a lot of coaches were like, and a lot of people in our community are like, oh my God, you're going with Jeffersonville? And I'm like, yeah, and I think we did that. It's kind of funny. It was supposed to be about us growing together as coaches on this trip, but by the time we had went in 2024, we had already been communicating for 4 years now, right? And so it ended up being, we really kind of went as friends as opposed to two guys that were going to get closer during this trip. And ultra grateful for that. That's one thing that I think we definitely accomplished. Pushing ourselves physically. We were supposed to do all these different hikes. I ended up, I hiked 90 miles throughout my trip. We kind of split it up a little bit. I hiked over 90 miles, did like 16,000 feet elevation gain. You hiked in Alaska, you did Colorado.
We did the first part of our trip separate to do family stuff. So I went out to New Mexico and Colorado and hiked when he went through Europe and hiked, and then we met in Paris.
Yeah. We did a lot. So, and grow our leadership qualities. I attended the Silver Coaches College during the World Team Trials. Has anybody done the Silver Coaches College? It's pretty cool experience. I encourage you all to look into that. They do it every single year. It was a really, really neat experience to do that. Danny was on the front end of your trip. You also went to the NWCA, right? Yep. And then you went to the leadership afterwards there. So just trying to grow wrestling and all that. So expand our world views through travel. I love traveling. Between the two of us, we went to Alaska, Oregon, Washington, California, England, Paris, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Switzerland, France. And so, I said one of our goals is trying to get a bigger world view. And one thing that I took from the Olympics and being around the Olympic spirit is if you're around the Olympic spirit, it's something totally different, right? And in general, people in the world are good. People are good. Most people in the world are good. And the Olympic spirit, we did a number of things that we're going to talk about, but it's just countries cheering together, right? There's a Chinese weightlifter trying to win a gold medal, and everybody, it's primarily an American crowd, everybody's cheering for this guy, right? And so, that's something I really took away from it is, in general, people just want to be happy. It doesn't matter where they are and what world they live in. You talk to somebody on the street, in general, people want to be happy. and you go out and experience the world and those sort of things. And I think that is something that I took away. I don't know what you think or what you've gotten from it. Or so I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I did a couple things, like you said, on the front end, and then we met back up in Paris. I was over there. I was in Europe for 24 days, but we met back up in Paris. Some stuff we worked out every day under a subway, just out in the street, people staring at us, jumping rope and using elastic bands to get a workout in. We did get to see Noah Lyles win the 100-meter finals. Kind of one of the craziest things is, if you've ever been to a track meet, everybody gets quiet, right? Hearing 80,000 people get quiet, it was you could have heard a pin drop. It was like the quietest. It was kind of eerie. Boxing at Roland Garros, weightlifting. We got to see Milan Lopez win his 5th gold medal, which was really cool. We were there for a Mint Allures championship match as well. Sarah Hildebrand winning the gold medal, and then we got to hang out with her. And if I'm being honest, one reason that I reached out to Danny to do this is because if you go to a Silver College or you go around and you start talking to people, Danny's very well connected, right? Danny's very well connected. And so I knew that would be able to elevate this experience going to the Olympics. Is he's just texting people, and we're going in, we're hanging out with these people, and we're meeting these people. And so we stayed out, waited for Sarah, and then she was like, hey, I want to eat something. I'm going to McDonald's. And it was the only place open. And we went down there, we paid for McDonald's, and then they kicked her out. They wouldn't even let her. She didn't even eat inside. Like, she was sitting on the sidewalk eating her McDonald's, and then she signed, right? You still have that?
Got her chicken nugget, $33 in chicken nuggets.
Yeah. The USA House, so we saw the men's, met some people too, right? Some fun people that we met. Sally Roberts, Wrestle Like a Girl. We got our picture with, he was sitting there in that bar all day long, right? They said he was just drinking and drinking and drinking. Like, I guess that's what he does 3 out of the 4 years of Olympic cycles. But that's what he does. And so he was sitting in there, and he was on the phone all day long, and they said he was just in there drinking all day long, living the good life. Henry Zudo, Dan Russell, Bruce Baumgartner, hung out with Lee and Kayla Miracle. The Lee Miracle night was probably one of our longest nights if you've ever hung out with Lee. Lee likes to have a good time.
Here,
So
I'll make a comment there. So I was like, hey Sarah, I'll pick up your McDonald's tab. It was $33 for her and her sister or whatever. So the next night, when we go out with the Miracles, he's like, oh, I'll get theirs. And Lee just goes, yeah, so he had all the family, everybody, and he got like a $500
I was like, oh, I was like, oh, I got it. And I will say, it was kind of, the Olympics is expensive. It is. And navigating it, Paris, actually, you hear all kinds of things about Paris. I think they did an awesome job. It was ultra clean. It was super easy to get around. I don't know how Los Angeles is going to do that, but I guess Los Angeles is looking into being a car-free city for 2 weeks and buses and all that. But doing this allowed us to go, hey, you want to go watch boxing? And we just purchased tickets, right? And so that is what the Lilly Endowment does, is that's what it allows you to do. Go and experience some things that are ultra life-changing. And we got to see a whole lot, man. And, awesome memories. We loved, everybody, like, it was kind of, people were following us along, like, who'd you meet today? Who'd you meet today? And so it was a really, really, really good time, man. And so, like I said, I think being 4 years later, it actually made it end up being a little bit better. So I don't want to go too long. I'm trying to go quick. A couple things, main takeaways for me. It's like you're supposed to go back and share this. That's what the Lilly Endowment they want. And it's like, how do you going to help people, and what are you going to bring to people, and how are you going to present it. And one thing that I talked about is, as coaches, we're always talking about getting out of wrestlers, right? You got to get out of your comfort zone. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to grow, right? My former coach, Dave Capel, who's a Hall of Famer, he said, if you aren't getting better, you're getting worse. Nobody ever stays the same, right? I think I had a really good grasp of that, and still do as an athlete and somebody that likes to be physical. I can push myself, but as an adult, how often are we getting out of our comfort zones mentally, socially? Right? How often do we do those sort of things? Probably the most uncomfortable I've been is I've had some training for a planetarium this past year. I flew out to Utah and we sat in there, and I've never, well, it's been a long time, but I was the dumbest person in this room. Like, I knew it without a doubt. I was the dumbest person in this room. They're going around, they're like, hey, what do you do? Well, I'm an astrophysicist. And I'm like, I teach high school science, and I just took a test. I really didn't even take any college classes for this, right? And so but I loved it, man. And being around that and getting out of your comfort zone is where you definitely grow. Like I said, I think it's important that we do that as well. Most recently, I read a book, The Pearl in the Storm, really good one, about the first woman to row across the Atlantic. Really good book. Super interesting lady. She said, you can't travel the road to wisdom on a feathered bed, right? I think, again, we all understand how to do that physically, but how are we doing that mentally, right? How are we getting out of our comfort zones? How are we trying to grow as people and coaches and all those sort of things, And so one way I did it, probably the most uncomfortable I was on the trip is my family was there for 8 days, and then they left. And I rented a camper van by myself in Europe. And so I was like doing groceries, and I'm like, why is my heart racing? And I'm like walking through, I'm like, what's going on here? I was like, I think I might be having a panic attack a little bit, right? I'm in a foreign country. I don't speak any of the language. No French, no nothing, right? This is the first time I've used this camper van, right? I know I can get up and talk in front of people. I'm not real great at talking to people. And so asking for help. And I was like, man, I'm alone for 8 days. And the very first night, I'm trying to mess with the camper van. Dude, it's a disaster. These two people are like looking at me across the way, like, what is this guy doing? They were singing karaoke in French. French karaoke, by the way, is just as horrible as English karaoke, right? But I slept. One night I couldn't find a camping spot. I slept in a parking garage, and I was really, really uncomfortable. But when I look back, dude, those days, I love teaching. But every single one of those days was way better than a day teaching. And I was uncomfortable doing it, right? And that's where we grow. And, I think it is important as leaders that we step out of our comfort zones, right? How are some ways that we can do that? I think, attending these things and going to clinics and all these sort of things. As a young coach, I was like, man, that's for other people. I don't need that. I know what I'm doing, right? And just growing and talking to people and, that sort of thing. Work out with them, right? If you're still able to, right? I think I try to. Talk about what you're reading. Take on a new hobby. Maybe jump roping, huh? I'm an avid jump roper. It's kind of I've been doing it for like 1,600 days straight. But if you listen to Guerrilla Radio and Floyd Central gets mentioned, it's going to be some sort of jab at me for jumping rope. But pick up a new hobby, do something, guys. And I think what's important to another book that I just read was Every Moment Matters. It's a great coaching book as well. And he kind of mentioned you got to be vulnerable with your athletes too. Let them know you're a person, right? Let them know that, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. This is how I'm trying to grow, and sharing all those things. And then the other one, coaching and peers. like we all took that thing and we all feel great right now, right? And we're all joking about it, but we know how we're about to start feeling too, right? And, I think coaching can be a lonely endeavor at times, right? We want to, put our nose down. We want to get things done. We're trying to get all this stuff done. I think it's really important that we have peers. We have people that we can talk to. And that's something else that I took out of this is getting to know Danny and, connect and have outlets. One of mine is my former head coach. When you start talking to other people, right? Who's had this experience? You're going through something, you show up to weigh-ins, and you start talking to another coach, and they're going through something worse. Who's had that experience? We're all going through something, right? We're all going through something, but we often feel, I'm the only one going through this, right? I'm the only one struggling. And it's not. And I do think it's important that we talk to people and have outlets. And I think it's important for us to have outlets. I try to leave my assistant coaches alone with a lot of stuff, right? I don't want to throw a lot of things on them. I don't want to go home and complain about this to my wife every single night, right? And having outlets and talking to people is important. Dave Capel, my second year, just another Coach Capel quote is, I was having a really hard time, man. Bunch of kids quit on me. Second year coaching, we go through all this stuff, and we're getting ready to leave, and he goes, hey. I was like, what? He goes, it never gets any easier. And I was like, why in the world would he tell me that? I'm struggling. But what he was basically saying is like, man, even the good years are going to be hard, right? It's just going to be something different. We had one of our most successful, but probably one of my most stressful seasons ever last year, right? And so, it doesn't get any easier, but he was a great outlet. Greg Schaefer, if he's one of my outlets, Greg is just a great human being. If you all have never talked to Greg is a godly man. He is a very kind person. He is a great dude. And then Danny and I, now that I know, he has what's the number of unread text messages on your phone right now? So he actually answers mine now sometimes. So, I was like, it is nice to have those outlets, guys. I do think it's important that we do that. And then Mike Weimer, if you heard Michael. I call Michael a lot of times, but it's to listen to Mike go on. So Michael Weimer, the head coach at Noblesville, he's actually a former Floyd Central guy as well. We were in each other's weddings, and so he's a great person for me to reach out to and talk to. But I do think that is important for us as coaches is get out of our own little worlds sometimes, right? And talk to other people, reach out to other people. And then mentor. And I don't think I've done a good enough job of this as I've gotten older as a coach is, trying to reach out to why should somebody that's just starting as a coach, why should they have to reach out to me, right? Hey man, do you need any help? What are you struggling with or things like that? And just a text message to guys that are close. A 20% turnover rate, right? That's crazy, right? That's crazy. We need to keep these people in the sport of wrestling. We're all in it because we love it, but if we allow it to bear us down and burn us out, that could be a major problem. So I know I'm talking super fast, but no, it was a great time, man. And, I'll just kind of go back to that. I don't know. You have any stories that we met the crew that did the volleyball, right? The volleyball matches.
My story's good. Ron's yours. How did he describe himself? He was the guy. I'll try. Sorry, Paul. He was the guy for NBC. We were sitting next to him at a bar, just like, oh man, and he goes, I'm the signal cameraman. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, when they're giving the signal, so they tell him that he is supposed to get the signal every time. So we sat next to that guy 3 straight nights in a row, and I'd pull up pictures
women's beach volleyball.
And he'd be like, yeah, that was me. That was me. That was me. NBC make sure I take that picture. So he was famous. That was the most famous guy.
Yeah, I didn't get. You have a picture with him. We should have got that.
And you didn't say that where we worked out every single day was in front of a brothel.
Yeah.
He's keeping that a lot better than I would.
No, we were like, hey, there's a strip club over there, and the locals were like, no, you do not go in there. They won't let you back out. I mean, that's what they said.
In front of our condo, so every night we sit there trying to see, like, they're like, man, I wonder if LeBron James walks in there. So we never saw anybody famous go in. So
No, it was a great time, man. And so I encourage you all, write a Lily Grant. Do it a couple times. It's an amazing experience, once in a lifetime for sure. So, but all right.
thank you, Brandon.
Yeah. Hey, there's one more